Hello chess friends and welcome to Out of Chess channel and welcome back to our best chess games of all time series. So in this series we're following the best of the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, and today I wanted to show a really brilliant game that was played in the 1954 USSR Chess Championship between Rashit Nezhmetdinov and Georgy Borisenko. So Rashit Nezhmetdinov was, if you don't know, Mikhail Tal's second, and he was his coach. He played also really beautiful and sharp attacking chess like the legendary Mikhail Tal. So both of them, I think, deserve all of our respect. I think in the near future we're going to cover more Mikhail Tal games and also more Rashid Nezhmetdinov games. So this game is special because it shows really the strength of Rashid Nezhmetdinov, because he wasn't maybe the best theoretician in chess. He didn't rely simply on openings, but when Rashid Nezhmetdinov had his opportunity to attack you, when he built a beautiful attacking formation, when he took over in one particular moment in the game, then it was simply over for you. If he gets his attacking formation, I can promise you Rashid Nezhmetdinov would simply destroy you. That's now the beauty and strength of him, and that's why I wanted to show this particular game, in which again maybe Nezhmetdinov didn't play the best opening series. He, as I said, simply didn't rely so much on opening preparations, but his tactical skills were really brilliant, and in this game we have really immortal and sick brutal tactics. So let's check out now the game. Here Rashid opened with the move e4. We have e5 by Borisenko, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Ruy Lopez was on the board. So we have now a6, which is now the so-called Morphy Defense, bishop to a4, and now after move knight to f6 we have now kingside casting. And now with the move d6 the game becomes close to Ruy Lopez. Now we have several choices. In my opinion, here the best way is to proceed with the move rook to e1. Now after move b5, bishop to b3 would be sort of a main line, and now after move bishop to e7, then we would have this preparation c3 with of course the idea to break through in the center with the move d4. But okay, here instead of this move rook to e1, Rashid Nezhmetdinov played now a slightly more passive move of d3, and the d3 is perfectly fine, nothing wrong with this move, but it was a little bit of a surprise, I think, because Rashid was a sharper player. Now with the move d3 the game becomes more and more positional, so that's why here Borisenko uses this moment and plays now b5. Here we have bishop to b3 and now knight to a5, and this move knight to a5 is actually not this plan of this move is not actually to take out the bishop on b3. The main goal of this move is to play c5, and then also here maybe the near future the move c4. Here in the continuation we have a knight to c3 by Nezhmetdinov. He's trying now to control the d5 square, and actually you see now knight takes b3 seems like a decent idea, but actually this is not the best of ways how black should make progress. Here you can maybe try here a takes b3, and there is now always this problem on the a file. That's now I think the main issue in black's camp, because first of all white can always build maybe sort of a battery on the a file, and the problem is now also this tactical shot, this possible tactical shot with move knight to b5, a takes b5 is not working because you lose the rook on the a file. So there are now two choices what black could do. Maybe here black could do maybe the move c6, or could play maybe the move bishop to b7 in order to prevent this move knight to b5. In my opinion, the move bishop to b7 would be the best move, because first of all we got our bishop out into the game, and we're also controlling this very important d5 square. We're not allowing here white to jump here on this very important square. So this would be sort of a line. You can be the judge of this position. Many times black simply doesn't want to take out the bishop on b3 because especially of this potential a file attack. But okay, here after move knight to c3 we have now bishop to e7 by Borisenko, and now h3 prophylactic move, of course, not allowing here some dangerous spins on g4. So we have castling rook to e1, and now c6 here by Borisenko. We have now knight to e2. Here Rashid Nezhmetdinov is trying, of course, to play some maneuvers. Knight to g3, maybe here knight to f5 would be also very dangerous. If you try maybe here to play something like g6 in order to prevent this idea, prevent this outpost on n5, then also the bishop could come here on h6, and this would be maybe a dangerous position for black. But here Borisenko plays now a risky move. He played now the move king to h8, although probably here, as we said in the beginning, c5 would be the main goal. I think in the Ruy Lopez many times this is the move that you want to play, c5, and now you see there is a threat of c4, and in order to prevent this move you have to play c3. And actually it's now time, I think, to take out simply the bishop on b3. You should, maybe when you're playing the Ruy Lopez from black's perspective, you should always consider, okay, should I take the bishop on b3, should I not take it? But I think this is now a good choice when you should take it, because first of all, what we can notice that queen takes b3 is not working because of this move c4. c4 would simply here break the pawn chain, the small pawn chain, and now black would simply take out this very important centralized pawn. That would be, I think, a huge positional problem now in white's position. And then when bishop to b7 happens, then you see the light square diagonal is open. Now the light square bishop becomes the best piece on the board. So that's why here after move queen to b3, maybe you could try a takes b3, but that's now a different story, because you see the pawn is not on c2 anymore, and suddenly the b3 pawn becomes the weakest. And now in the near future, bishop to e6 could happen, and then the queen is a little bit stuck here to the defense of one simple pawn, which is not good. Of course, the queen should not protect one single pawn. So I think that now it was simply time to make some kind of a progress here for black. c5 with the threat of c4, but Borisenko had a different idea in mind. He played now a risky move, as I said, king to h8, with the idea to play knight to g8 and then bishop to f6. This was his main plan. I'm not sure about the quality of this plan, but it was simply something that he made up here. So here in the continuation, after king to h8, we have knight to g3. So Rashit Nezhmetdinov continues with this plan to maybe occupy here the weak f5 square. We have now knight to g8, we have d4. So here finally Rashit Nezhmetdinov is breaking in the center. We have now e takes d4, and now knight to d4. You may think c5 c4 is winning here, but actually there is a counterplay here. Bishop to d5 with a direct threat against the rook. So if you take, we take simply out the rook, and you see the bishop is still standing in the way, so black is not gaining two pieces for the rook. So that's why c5 is not working. Here in the continuation, Borisenko played now the move g6, and that was his plan. He probably thought of this idea. You see now why he played this maneuver. He's trying to get the bishop on f6, then he's trying maybe to kick away the knight from c5, and then also maybe he's trying then to liberate this long diagonal against the weak b2 pawn. That was his plan. As I said, this was a risky choice. There are better ideas, but as I said, this was simply his main goal here. So after move d4, as we said, e takes d4, knight to d4, we have a g6, and now c3. You can also see that the c4 pawn, c4 square is a little bit weak here. That's now also a useful square for black. In the continuation, we have now bishop to b7. So Borisenko is now finally trying this idea c5, and he could liberate now here his long light square bishop. So we have now bishop to c2, and you see now here Rashit Nezhmetdinov builds now really a powerful attack, because both of these bishops are aiming towards the king side. The knight is on a good square. The knight could be used maybe on f5, on h5. The queen can come very active into the game on g4. The rook is on a natural square, on a good file. The only piece that is not maybe included into the attack is the move is the rook on a1. But when we think about this position harder, we can also notice that black doesn't have so many defenders in front of the king. The knight is okay, a good defender. The bishop is good. The rook is good. But I think these pieces, the bishop on b7 and also the knight on a5, are simply too far away from the action. So this was maybe sort of a trigger here for Rashit Nezhmetdinov. He's saying, okay, now it was simply time to attack. So we have now bishop to f6 with the idea to play, as we said, knight to c4. Here in the continuation, we have knight to f3 by Rashit Nezhmetdinov, and now comes this idea rook to e8, also attacking here the weak pawn on e4. If you try here knight to c4, that was, I think, also a beautiful plan here for black. The problem is you cannot kick away this knight from with the move b3, because then the c3. So this was maybe also a natural idea here for black. But here rook to e8 was played, which was a slightly inaccurate move. As we said, knight to c4 probably slightly better here. But after move rook to e8, now Rashit Nezhmetdinov realizes that, okay, you have had your opportunity with the move knight to c4. You had some opportunities to attack you. You played a couple of passive moves. Now it's simply time to push. And here he played a beautiful move h4. Here after move bishop to h4, if you take bishop to h4, knight to h4, queen takes h4, you lose also the pawn on d6, and now we can, I think, realize that black has here many dark square problems. The bishop will come into the game, maybe here bishop to e3, bishop to d4. Without the dark square bishop, I think black is simply strategically lost, so it's something that black should not do, giving up, of course, this very powerful dark square bishop. So as I said, this would be not a good continuation here for black. So after move h4, finally here Borisenko played now the move knight to c4. We have now knight to g5, again the same position. If you take, you don't want to give up again your dark square bishop simply for the knight, so that's why here in continuation we have knight to h6, and now comes the stunner of this game. So you see, as we said, many pieces of whites are simply great attacking pieces. Every of these pieces is on a good square. The only piece I'm pointing out again that is not included into the attack is the rook on a1, but it doesn't matter. Actually, I think the rook doesn't have to come into the game immediately, because the activity of these pieces is simply now too much to handle here for black. Here Rashit Nezhmetdinov plays now a beautiful stunner knight to h5, and there are not many things that you can do. What you should not do is really wild. You should not take it, and that was the thing that Borisenko did here. He took g takes h5. Let's see now possible continuations, what you can do if you don't react to this knight move. You can play, of course, something like bishop to e5 in order to escape, but the problem is now this move. Bishop to e5 can be met with the move f4. F4, okay, can be met with the move queen to b6 by black. You have to escape, and now, okay, you could take, but also white takes now again this very important bishop, and again this dark square problems will cause many problems in black's position. You can maybe take, but now bishop to e3, queen retreats, and now you can take, and you see the knight is hanging. The bishops are again very dangerous, so it's a position I think that black should resign. The best actual move here is the move, let's go back. Instead of this move bishop to e5, you should actually go bishop to e7. Bishop to g7 is again not good, because knight takes g7 happens, and again you have lost your dark square bishop. Bishop to e7 would be probably the best continuation. Now white can go here knight to f4, can get the knight back, and here in the continuation bishop to f6. Now queen to f3, simply getting the queen into the game. Okay, knight to e5, you can maybe attack the queen, but now with queen to g3, I think we have reached now a position in which probably white is slightly better, but maybe black can hang on to this position, maybe black can defend this position. But again, I'm pointing out this beautiful attacking setup that white has built here. So that's why here many things could have been done. Bishop to e7 probably the best continuation here for black, but here instead of this move here Borisenko took g takes h5, and this gives now here Rashid Nezhmetdinov a beautiful game, because he has now again a beautiful attacking formation. So again, taking out the knight is not good, takes, and now the knight is hanging, so it's simply winning game for white. So after move queen to h5, we have bishop to g7. So Borisenko is trying to get, of course, more pieces now into the defense. He has to defend now the king. This tactic is not working. If you ask yourself this question, queen to h6, bishop to h6, knight to f7, but now with king to g7, everything is protected. You take out the queen, takes, and here black is much better, because black has, of course, an extra piece. So this is not something that you should do. After move bishop to g7, maybe you can pause now the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. So you should, first of all, when you are on the attacking side, realize your opponent's weaknesses. Where are his weaknesses? And also what we should always take care of is how you should include all of your pieces into the attack. It's very important in chess to play with all of your pieces. If you don't play with them, then it's not so good. Of course, we cannot include the rook on a1 immediately, but there are now many pieces that can be included into the game with one simple move. So maybe, as I said, it's time to pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. So take your time, and the good part about this sort of chess puzzle is that that's the only move. If you play any other move, I think black is much better. So you have to now get use of your piece activity. So the only move that white can play here is actually the move now e5. e5 is now a beautiful stunner, because what we are threatening now is an idea knight to f7, the fork against the queen and the king. So if you take knight takes f7, then you see queen takes h7 would be a checkmate. So the knight gets out of the range, and now you see this h7 square is not covered. So what you can do, you could maybe try here some ideas of after move bishop to g7, as we said, e5. What you could do here is, of course, knight takes e5. This wouldn't be good because you get simply rook to e5, and whatever you do, you could try d takes e5 again. This tactical shot is working. Knight to f7, you take out with the queen, you take out with the knight, and now queen to h7 leads into a checkmate. Again, the same position, even if you take out with the rook, again the same things happen. Knight to f7, again it's a simply lost game. So as I said, after move e5, there's not so much that can be done, so the only way to protect this is the move f5. And after move f5, here we have a stunner knight to h7 again by Rashit Nezhmetdinov. So what you do here, if you play king to h7, it's not good, because here you get bishop to h6. That's now a very important move, because the knight was protecting this very important square f5. Now after move bishop to h6, we have queen to f5, and this leads now into a forced checkmate sequence, because you can play, of course, king to g7, queen to h7. Now you have only this one. We take out here the bishop on h6. You have only maybe this square. Well, now you can even take with a double check, e takes d6. You're moving the king to maybe d7, but now with bishop to f5 you can cover yourself, and now with the move queen to e6, it's game over. So this was probably the best continuation here for white. So as I said, after move knight to h7, you cannot take out the knight. That was now the most important thing, and the problem is now that white is threatening also to take out the knight on h6. So that's why here rook to e6 was played by Rashit Nezhmetdinov. And maybe pause the video again and try again to see the best continuation here for white. Again, you should probably think about the weaknesses that are in black's positions, how to maybe get a lack of coordination here of black's pieces. So it's very important now to again play the best next move, because if you play again every other move, it's simply winning for black. So you have to be accurate here when you're on the attacking side. So you see when Mikhail Tal and Rashit Nezhmetdinov played, their attacks were many times really accurate. So here it was simply time now again to play the best next move. So I hope you could find this move, because it's not so easy even to see, because the problem is also a little bit here the tension on the e file. If something gets cleared, then maybe also the rook on e1 could hang. But here in the continuation, we have now a beautiful move by Rashit Nezhmetdinov, knight to f6. And if you take, of course, bishop to f6, then it's not good. Queen to h6 is going to happen. You move the king. We have now bishop to f5. As you see, the rook is hanging. You can maybe include the queen into the game, but now bishop to e6, queen to e6, and now queen to g6. You can maybe play king to f8, and now we can play, of course, bishop to h6, or we can also play here a beautiful move e takes f6 is even a possibility. You take out here the rook, but now king to h2, and there's not so many things that can be done. You can maybe play one check, but now we cover with g3, and now there is not a good way to protect everything. Bishop to h6 is going to happen, so it's game over here for black. So really, even a rook sacrifice is possible here on e1. So this was the possible continuation. As I said, after move knight to f6, you cannot take with bishop to h6, so you have to sacrifice the rook. We have rook to f6, we have e takes f6, and now queen to f6. We have bishop to g5, and it seems so that finally black can defend himself, because here queen to f7 was played, and that was now the brilliant stuff by Rashit Nezhmetdinov. I'm sure that he calculated everything here, because he took simply queen to f7. We have knight to f7, and now a rook to e7, and both pieces are hanging. So there's only one thing that you can do. You can take out here the pawn on g5, so the bishop on g5, pardon me. So after move knight to g5, h takes g5 was played, and now what you can do is, of course, maybe to get out of the range with the move bishop to c8. That's not good, because this is the stunner. you get simply rook to e8, and if you cover here, then you have rook to c8, rook takes c8, and now bishop to f5. The fork, you retreat with the king, and now after bishop to c8, this is now completely winning endgame here with these 3 pawns, with the situation where we're up the exchange. It's game over for black. So that's what's really beautiful tactical calculation. So you cannot get your bishop to c8, you have to protect it with the rook. So that's why rook to b8 was played, but now a rook to e1, including now all of the pieces in the attack. Again, knight takes b2, for instance. If you are greedy and grab a pawn, again, it's not good because you get this one, rook to e8, rook takes e8. If you don't want to lose the piece, rook bishop to f8 is possible, then you lose the bishop. But if you play king to h7, then it's even checkmate here with, again, the same tactical shot with the move bishop to f5. So I'm sure that Rashit Nezhmetdinov saw all of this. So really brilliant stuff. So here, after move rook to e1, here knight to e5 was played by Borisenko. He's not allowing here the rooks to get connected, but now of course f4, getting rid of this knight on the center of the board. We have bishop to f8, now rook to c7, escaping from every possible attack by any minor piece here by Nezhmetdinov. We have knight to g6, and now bishop to f5. Here we have knight to f4, and now a very important move, rook to e4. And the most important thing is, again, here to recognize that you cannot escape with the knight. If you play knight to d3 in order to escape from any attack, then you get even checkmated. Rook to h4, you play here king to g8, and now with the move bishop to e6, the game is over. So it's a beautiful checkmate with this rook and with the bishop combined. So this is not good for black. So there is not a good square here for Borisenko, so that's why he took simply knight takes g2. At least he's taking one piece, but that was not part of Rashit Nezhmetdinov's plan. He realized that this knight is trapped anyway. There's not a good square here to escape for the knight, so the knight will be taken anyway, so you don't have to take it immediately. First, what Nezhmetdinov is doing here, here's first improving all of his pieces. So after move king to g8, we have now g6, we have bishop to c8, we have bishop to c8, rook to c8, and now finally king to g2. So it's now a different story. You see, with the move g6, Rashit Nezhmetdinov got some time in order to protect this rook, and he has now a comfortable endgame. So here in the continuation, we have now a5, rook to d7, d5, rook to e6, we have bishop to h6, rook from d to d6, we have bishop to c1, we have b3, we have c5, and now a rook to d5, bishop to b2, we have now a new move, rook to d7, wants of course to create some madness on the 7th rank. We have bishop to c3, and now beautiful move g7 by Rashit Nezhmetdinov. He's trying rook to h6, rook to h8 would be checkmate. So here we have now this move, king to h7, rook to e3, attacking now the bishop. The bishop has to take, and now here in the continuation in this position, Borisenko resigned. Bishop to g7 can be met, of course, with rook to h3. Whatever you do, if you play king to g8 or king to g6, the same thing will happen. Rook to g3 simply wins a piece. So really beautiful tactical game by the legendary Rashit Nezhmetdinov. I really enjoyed this attacking brilliancy, and I really like the fact that there were plenty inaccuracies in his games. So in the opening theory, he didn't play maybe like Magnus Carlsen or I don't know Fabiano Caruana or Anish Giria playing these days with really brilliant opening theory and really great opening knowledge. But when it comes to tactics, I think that Rashit Nezhmetdinov was a beautiful tactician like tacticians these days. So when it comes to tactical calculations, I'm not sure if he was any worse than maybe the top grandmasters of these days, because you see, when he gets his opportunity, when he gets his attacking formation, then he'll not make inaccuracies or mistakes. He'll simply punish you with really beautiful and immortal tactical shot. So really great game. I hope that you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it a lot, and if you want to see more of these games, of this kind of games, check out my Best Chess Games of All Time series with some great games from the past. And if you want to see the best engine playing, here's also the link of our best chess games played by the top chess engines. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.